Paul Neeson with the Raw Life Health Show, and I've been reflecting a lot on a lot of different things that I've been learning about health and nutrition over the years, and there's a lot of controversies and questions about what the best diet is, and I do believe it comes down to a digestion, and we want to eat the foods that digest the best possible. But there are many other aspects to health, the emotional and spiritual aspects of health, as well as the physical. But from the physical, we have to understand, we have today more books about the topic of losing weight, the topic of not being obese, and dieting than ever before in the history of man. No matter what type of diet it is, there's so many different books written on this topic. Probably when it comes to the subject of health or disease recovery, diet books are out there more than any other book written out there, or the types of books written out there. It has to do with eating. Why is that? And I often wonder, why do we have more books out now than ever before in the history of man about losing weight and about keeping the weight off? But at the same time, we have more people than ever before in the history of man overweight. Something is drastically wrong, folks. You're overweight because you're eating too much food, the wrong food, and too often, and the wrong times, too late. That's it. You can eat a raw vegan diet and be overweight. Now, does that mean you're eating too much fat? No, fat is necessarily not even bad for us if you're eating the right fats. It could be good for us. The reason why we're overweight, sick, and diseased is because we eat too much. That's the issue. And we eat at times that doesn't allow our bodies to digest this. Everyone out there that knows me knows that, I love to teach about from the Bible and what the Bible says about health. And in the Bible, they talk about Yeshua, which a lot of you know as Jesus. They talk about when he was in the desert and he was giving some preaching. He was doing some preaching in the desert, and there were thousands of people there listening to him. And they didn't have a lot of food to eat, but they weren't concerned about the food to eat. They were listening to him, and they were there to hear what he had to say. They didn't just come there to get food like most people go to events today. Their mind was focused on a higher ideal than where's my next meal coming from or what I'm going to eat. And Yeshua met their needs. He says, these people haven't eaten for 3 days. Give them something to eat so they don't faint on the way home. Yes, he acknowledges we need food to eat and to be healthy. But he also shows that, if we focus on something other than just food, if we focus on him, our needs will be met. And when I talk to a lot of people about eating healthy, I just had somebody now that just said, I'm a student. I can't eat healthy because I can't afford it to eat healthy, or it's too expensive to eat healthy. I said, sir, how much does a banana cost? And he said, well, it's not that expensive. Unless you're buying it from the airport, of course. But he didn't say that, I'm saying that. But how much does an apple cost? It doesn't have to cost a lot of money to eat healthy. You can go, if you're eating meat, for example, you can get a hamburger, or you can go to the finest steakhouse and get a steak. One's a lot of money and one's a little. Well, if you're a raw foodist out there or inspiring to eat healthier, you can go to a raw food restaurant or a fancy vegetarian restaurant and buy the most expensive thing on the menu. Or you can go get some fruits and vegetables and some nuts and seeds. And they're not that expensive. And somebody will say, well, can I sustain myself on that? Absolutely you can. Absolutely. But you have to understand, folks, that we have to get away from the common thinking of the world today, that it's too much money. All these excuses why we shouldn't be doing it. It takes too much time to do. Well, you know what? If you're eating healthier, you're actually spending less money on food ultimately because you're buying less food. Because why? When you're eating healthier, you're getting more of the nutrients your body needs and you're getting fuller faster. So if you're more satisfied, or if your body's cells are satisfied, you're ultimately spending less money on food. So you might need to spend more money on the food you're getting, but you're eating less, so you're spending less money in the long run. And if you say you don't have time, well, if you're eating less, you're not eating as more. And some people say, Paul, I know everything you're saying, but I just love to eat. Well, I say if you eat less, you live longer, so you get to eat more. So, yes, we need to eat, folks. We need to eat good food. But when we look at how much people eat, we need to eat a lot less. And, we need to eat at the right times. I would say the most two important things to do as a first step to eating better is not eating late, especially when it's dark outside or before going to sleep, and eating less. I would say if people cut the amount of meals they eat in half and the amount in those meals in half, a lot more people would be a lot healthier today. We'd see that. But we eat, it's emotional. We eat for emotional reasons. And this is why people eat 10 to 15 times a day between their snacking and picking all day, and they make excuses to keep doing that. Yes, food is a pleasure. Food is a pleasure, but it's no longer a pleasure if it's destroying our health. We want to use it as a pleasure. If anyone out there has done or has any interest in fasting, when you eat, you appreciate a food a lot more than when you just eat all the time. It's like that everywhere. I live in Florida, and a lot of people take the good weather for granted, but in the winter, if you go to Minnesota and you're from Florida, you appreciate Florida a lot more. So you don't take your food for granted as much when you're eating good quality food and you're eating more often, or you're eating less often. You don't take it for granted as much, but people don't stop to think about these things today, and we need to slow down and reflect on these things. Somebody once said if people ate every other day, they'd appreciate the food a lot more, or every other couple, or if they fasted once a week, and all these little things, these little ideas you can do to just help yourself appreciate more. Eating 2 meals a day instead of eating 5 or 6 meals a day. Experiment with these things, folk, and find out what works best for you. And when I say what works best, not only on how you feel, because you can feel great doing a lot of different things, but also, what puts you at the best place in terms of your emotional state. Emotionally, and that could be reflected by, as the Bible talks about the fruit you bear, and the people around you, their attitude around you, and so on. So we need to think about these things. And, I know when I'm driving down the block and I see a homeless man in the street, I think I definitely do my best to try to give him some food. And some people say, well, what if that's the only food you have? Well, he just might need that more than me. And I know I can go without missing a meal or missing a couple of meals. He might need that more than me. And emotionally, that was going to put me in a better place. Physically, it'll probably put me in a better place. And I know from a weight standpoint, I've always thought I was healthy at a certain weight, because the whole world is today overweight, so you think if you're a little overweight, it's healthy. But when you weigh less, you think it's not healthy. That's because most people come to you saying, you need to put on weight. Well, I've known every time I fasted or every time I've done the Ajuva herbal cleanse or some other type of cleansing, I've lost a decent amount of weight, but I always felt better. But then after that cleanse or that fast, I went back to eating. And then I would feel okay, but not as good as I felt when I was fasting or cleansing. Well, I do my best when I'm less than when I'm more. And I always experiment to see how far I can go on, is how little. And I think that's something we should all consider doing every now and then. See how far we can go and how little, with the highest quality in mind. So that's what this video is really about. How far we can go with how little, with the highest quality health in mind. Alright everybody, if you have any comments or questions, post them below the video. Thanks for checking us out, and have a great day and a great raw life.
Nature's wealth, good for your health. This is the Raw Life Health Show. Raw Life, brighten up your life.